Welcome to the We Are WakeTech podcast with your host, WakeTech President, Dr. Scott Ralls.
Hi, I'm Scott Ralls, the host of the We Are WakeTech podcast. And today, our guest is a great community leader, business leader, Jamie Thomas of IBM, but most importantly to WakeTech. She's a leader for WakeTech as the chair of our Board of Trustees. Today's guest is Jamie Thomas. Excited today to host a very special guest to the We Are WakeTech podcast, my boss, the board chair for the WakeTech Board of Trustees, and someone who is a well-known community member, someone who gives of her time to our college and our community. And so it is wonderful to welcome Jamie Thomas, the board chair for the WakeTech Community College Board of Trustees. Welcome, Jamie. Great to have you today.
Well, thanks, Dr. Ralls, for inviting me to this podcast. I certainly look forward to listening to them on a regular basis, and I'm very happy to participate, be a key member of the podcast this month.
Well, you're a key member, as all our board members are, of the WakeTech community. And we start each podcast typically with, when we have employees of WakeTech, saying, how did you get to WakeTech? With you, I'd like to delve a little bit into your journey because for our listening audience to know, Jamie Thomas, beyond being the board chair for WakeTech, is truly a national technology leader, not just a regional leader here within the Research Triangle region, one of the most technologically sophisticated regions in the country, but a national leader with IBM Corporation, and came from more of a rural background in rural Tennessee to this place of technology leadership with one of the nation's well-known technology leaders, IBM. How do you go? How did that start? And how did you get to where you are today, leading areas of cybersecurity and quantum physics and other things like that with IBM?
Well, it's something that's really a passion of mine, so that I really want to encourage others that they can take a journey like this as well. But I did grow up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I had parents, luckily, who were very focused on education, so they encouraged me. I went to public school, but they definitely encouraged me to make sure that I left all the doors open. So regardless of what I decided to do later in life, that I was building on a foundation that would allow me to make that choice, if you will. And so I think that was first and foremost, because a lot of this does start in your primary school and high school, et cetera, to make sure that you're setting the stage for what might come later. And then I went from high school there in Chattanooga to University of Tennessee. Now, I would say one of the things about University of Tennessee, which was kind of a obvious choice for me, it was only an hour and a half hours down the road, right? So it wasn't a very far journey, but it was quite a large university. And so one of the things I did build while I was there was understanding how to navigate a large university, how to build those kinds of negotiation skills, collaboration skills. I remember one of the key hurdles I encountered while I was there is I needed to take this one course to graduate in the quarter I wanted to graduate, and they were not teaching it. And I actually went to the dean of the college and got that course added back to the curriculum so that I could graduate that quarter. And I think it was just a case in point of negotiating skills. Also, while I was there at University of Tennessee, I became an intern early on at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So that's another thing that I think was foundational, was becoming an intern at an organization like that, building a network, understanding what it's like to be in the workplace. Once again, building collaboration skills, negotiation skills. I think that was all very fundamentally important leading into IBM. And of course, one of the things I remember the University of Tennessee telling us all when we were graduating is, please, when the companies come here to interview, don't try to stay in the state of Tennessee. We know you all love Tennessee, but we need you to show interest in these companies and organizations, because that's what keeps them coming back to us in terms of recruiting. So I did take that to heart. And when IBM showed up, I thought, well, this will be a great opportunity. Research Triangle Park looked like a wonderful area in terms of growth opportunity for the future, which that has proven to be true. And that's how I got here to IBM.
Going back to your Tennessee experience, now, if I recall, you majored in computer science. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was kind of an interesting choice for you. I was this week in the Research Triangle region. We have what's called the TechX conference that MetLife sponsors, and it's a focus on women in STEM and women in technology. So I was doing a little research, and one of the most recent studies I saw that only right now 19% of all computer science graduates at four-year universities are female, in a world where most of college students and workers out there are female. So that must have been an interesting. Talk to us a little bit about choosing to go into computer science at a big place like Tennessee at a time perhaps when you may have been not the norm.
Well, my father actually was in information technology. He started his career as a textile engineer, but as we all know, the textile industry suffered in the South and much of it moved overseas. So he, from a transition perspective, ended up moving out of textile engineering into information technology, which was somewhat of a natural evolution in a lot of those companies. So he was a big supporter of this notion that perhaps computer science would be a good choice. But I actually knew nothing about it. I mean, in those days, you didn't really get the fundamental learning that you do in high school now. Today, kids at age 2 are using the cell phone already or their iPad. And that was not the environment that I lived in. So I had to formulate during my period at Tennessee, what could I really do with this kind of a major? The interesting thing is that there were still a lot of women, though, going into the field, because coming out of World War II, most of the computer scientists, the computers were women in World War II, and women continue to be very involved in the field, and actually were surpassed by men, probably in the late 80s going into the 90s as more men got into the field. For sure, the rate of women entering the field declined dramatically. So I think we all have to reflect on why that happened. In World War II, obviously women had a lot of opportunity because the men were otherwise occupied in other capacities. But for some reason, we've not kept up that same focus for women, perhaps in high school, et cetera, in terms of encouraging them about the opportunity of this kind of field.
And I want to come back to that because probably nobody could speak to it better than you can. Before we do that, though, I'd also like to talk about where you are today. Behind the scenes, when I'm with colleagues, sometimes I will say that I have the most technologically sophisticated board chair in the United States. And, that may not be technically true. There may be someone out there, but, until someone comes up and can tell me that their board chair, has responsibilities for things like quantum computing and cybersecurity, then I don't believe it. But that's where, that's what makes you unique. I told someone when I have cybersecurity questions, I call my board chair, and I can't ask a quantum computing question because I really don't fundamentally understand it, but I'm still striving. So tell us a little bit about your very unique role in a very big technology company.
Well, I think that, first of all, I got here because IBM allows us to have these kind of opportunities. It is a very large multinational company. So there are some things that you get to learn and see here that you probably would not get in other organizations. Just the idea that you get up every day and work with people around the world is just sort of a natural thing for all of us, right? Our clientele are around the world and our employees are around the world. But in this current job, which evolved over a period of time from my experience in software and hardware, is sort of how I got here. I started in software for many, many years and then moved to the hardware unit. And so I had this mix of backgrounds in software and hardware that led me to this particular job, where I've gotten involved in our journey to quantum computing. I run the enterprise security office, which is the IBM CISO office. But all of that was really, it all came about from, years of progression.
So, man,
experience.
Chief Information Security Officer at IBM falls under your purview. Is that what?
Right. So one of the functions I have is the Enterprise Security Office, which is the CISO for IBM. And we're responsible for protecting the IBM company. So that's all cyber threats, product security, all of those things. And I could not do that role if I hadn't had a lot of fundamental experience in the development of software and hardware products, which is sort of fundamental in being able to do this, given what we do as a company. And so it was that background of experience that I think allowed me to get to this portfolio of things I have, which is a little bit unusual because I spend time on quantum computing, system hardware design for other elements of our portfolio. I have supply chain and manufacturing because of the hardware. So it also puts you in a very interesting seat, if you will, to see a lot of these things and also to see how they connect. There are some elements of connection, like right now, of course, with threats against supply chains and software supply chains, as well as hardware supply chains. I see that in manufacturing and the development of our products, but then it's also reflected, of course, in what's happening in cybersecurity.
Now, I don't think I can do this, so let me ask you if you can, in one minute, what is quantum computing?
So quantum is really a level of computing that takes off when classical computing cannot solve a problem. The best example I think that many people can understand is today when you look at modeling molecules, it takes a very long time to model even something as simple as caffeine. And it takes so long that it's not practical to use classical computing easily to understand new materials that you could perhaps use to build an airplane, or to understand new drug combinations that could help us with something like COVID-19 even faster than what we went through in the last year. So this notion that the quantum computer could actually model these molecules in such in an amount of time that allows us to solve these problems more effectively is quite interesting. And that's really what everyone's looking for. If you have a supercomputer, like we do have some supercomputers in the world, that's what helped us with COVID-19. But realize those are, not accessible to everyone, of course. And even a supercomputer has to run for weeks and weeks to do certain computational algorithms. So that's what we're really looking for, is something that can take off for where classical can't quite solve the problem. Now, classical computing will always be with us. It's not going to be replaced. But quantum can actually do things that classical cannot do today.
Got it. So you're at the cutting edge of technology. What do you love most about your job, and what's the biggest challenge? Because you have a job that the rest of us, we can't fully imagine. What's the most exciting thing, and what's the most challenging part of your role?
Well, the most interesting thing, I think, is seeing what the customers actually do with the technology that we deliver. That's where that's where I get motivated, right? It's not just about inventing things. It's about being able to change the world, right? If you feel like you created something, like we do own, and we did build, we don't own, but we built the largest supercomputer in the United States, which is Summit, and it's at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. And of course, Summit was one of the supercomputers that was used for a lot of COVID-19 research and exploration. Seeing that happen makes you feel like, wow, we did make an impact on the world with the Summit supercomputer that we helped create. Those are the kind of things that we get to see every day, whether it's, running the financial services sector for the most of the world, which we do, or seeing what manufacturing concerns do, or being able to impact lives through healthcare. That's really the most rewarding aspect of this job. And of course, the other rewarding aspect is working with really, really smart people, and being able to see those smart people in action every day, because it really takes a village, if you will, to make these kind of things happen.
Well, I enjoy having a really, really smart board chair, I'll tell you that. So it's good. What's your biggest challenge, though?
I would say the biggest challenge is like today, I can't even say the things that happened today, but, most of what happened today was not anticipated. So you've got to plan for the unpredictable events, and then be able to deal with those on a regular basis, because in this kind of environment that we're dealing with, whether it's with supply chains, or whether it's with governmental changes across the world, or whether it's with new threats or new markets or new technology surfacing, it's always very dynamic. And I think you have to have both an approach and an ability to deal with the unpredictable, and in a systematic way. Even though it's unpredictable, you've got to step back and say, what am I going to do about that? And therefore, how will I make progress given this set of events?
Now, in addition to being a national technology leader, the reason why you're on the podcast today is because you're a leader for WakeTech as our chair of our board. And our board is a wonderful group of community leaders, 1/3 appointed by the Board of Education, 1/3 by the governor, and 1/3 by the county commissioners. And it's a great group of people. For you, why Wake Tech, Jamie? What led you to take interest in us here at Wake Tech?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the podcast, and that is, I really do believe that education is what allows everyone to have an opportunity. And education could be learning a trade, it could be getting a certification, it could be learning English as your second language and being proficient in English. But it's really education that's going to allow people to have opportunity. And one of the things that we know in the United States is there's a lot of people who don't have a sense of opportunity. So when I started looking for an external board opportunity, and at IBM, I've got a busy day job. So this is the first external board I've actually done. I wanted to invest it in education. And I had turned down several different opportunities that had come my way. But when Wake Tech showed up, I knew immediately this is the one that I wanted to invest whatever spare time I had in this board. And I would have to say that it's everything that I hoped it would be and more, because I've learned so much about our region, our community, and about what we can do to help individuals. And I think Wake Tech gives us a unique lens into that set of challenges and also the opportunities that we can make happen for individuals.
So what was different to you about Wake Tech? Why you have so many opportunities to contribute in so many ways? Why did Wake Tech say, yeah, that I'll do that?
Because I believed, even from what I already knew about Wake Tech, that it had a huge impact on the community and that it was serving a wider reach, if you will, into individuals. So it wasn't, it has a bigger set of the community at play, if you will, in terms of who we're able to help than other institutions. And I'm on some advisory boards for other institutions, but I think that Wake Tech has a unique set of opportunities through its degree programs, as well as its certifications and trades and the curriculum at play here, to have a huge impact on the community. And one of the things that struck me day one is, like, when I first got on the board, is someone coming up to me at a restaurant and said to me, "Do you work at Wake Tech?" And I said, "I don't work at Wake Tech. I'm on the board." But it just, to me, was a reflection of the impact that you have on the community. And that's really what interests me.
Well, you may not work at Wake Tech, but you sure work for Wake Tech, and we're appreciative of that. And you now have, you've been a board member, and now a year and a half into being a board chair. What has surprised you the most about Wake Tech that perhaps you didn't know or didn't imagine before you have this kind of more insider's view in your role now?
Well, first of all, I of course assumed the board chair in the middle of a pandemic, so that's been kind of interesting. Although the video is working quite nicely for us, and we recently have had a few opportunities to do some ribbon cuttings outdoors. But the thing that I noticed, I of course knew that there was a broad curriculum. I didn't appreciate completely how broad it really is. So I've learned a lot about the full reach of the curriculum, which is quite impressive. I've also learned a lot about the degree that the faculty of Wake Tech are willing to go to ensure the students are successful. It's completely amazing, and it really depicts a level of devotion that I'm not sure exists in many academic institutions. You see people going to certain institutions and it's a little bit sink or swim. It's very competitive and everything, but the mantra at Wake Tech is we don't want to leave anyone behind. And that's reflected in a lot of the activities I see the faculty taking on as additional assignments, new programs that they're putting in place, that they're initiating and then driving. It's really impressive. And that's an aspect of it that I didn't know about, right? From everything that you all have done, the food pantries, what you did when the pandemic struck in terms of getting those laptops or out to everyone so that they could be affected, the ones that didn't be effective, the ones that didn't have access to that kind of technology. It's really quite amazing to see this level of dedication.
We start each board meeting with the board gives an award. We call it the Rallie Award, which recognizes someone each board meeting that has been nominated because they go so far above and beyond to, as we say, rally around our students, rally around our community. But you really do see that here. I mean, while we only recognize one or two per board meeting. I mean, we could give out rally awards every 10 minutes around this place.
Yeah, and they just stick out in my mind. They're like stories you never forget, like the one instructor who helped that young lady pass the first math class she'd ever passed in her life. Those are the kind of stories, or the police officer or the campus officer who was helping the lady who was homeless and needed to get access to the food pantry during the pandemic. I mean, these kind of stories are just it's also an eye into the community and what we really need to do to help people be successful in life. When you've reached an age and you've never passed a math class, then you're going to have a limitation on what you believe you're capable of doing. But if someone's willing to invest the time to help you get past that barrier, that's going to make a huge impact on your life.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that award is so important, and those stories are so important.
And our board, under your leadership, has put forward for us a new strategic plan. We call it Reach and Rally. It's a 4-year strategic plan, 2021 to 2025, which really seeking to have even greater impact, double down on those things that are core to Wake Tech, which is equitable access to higher education, upward mobility, and our role in economic mobility. And the board has just been tremendous and so thoughtful in bringing their insights as we have, as we realize that as much as we're doing, how important our role is in this community. Anything about the strategies for us moving forward that you emphasize?
Well, first of all, just a comment about our board. I mean, they're collectively an amazing group of very diverse and talented individuals from different industries. So we have an amazing board, I think, that has really worked together quite nicely during the pandemic. But the strategy, I think, is fundamentally important in that it looks at, it has a very keen eye into where we need to be in the next 3 years out, and is a very metrics-based strategy to make sure that we're achieving this goal that you've set forth, right? Which is this notion that there's a ladder and we need to keep people moving up this ladder so that when they get to the top of the ladder, or when they get to the right rung of the ladder, they have an income that can allow them to have an effective life here in Wake County. So it's not just about learning, it's also about having that the correct wage that's going to allow you to be an effective citizen in the county. And I think that's a little bit of the difference here in what you're doing at Wake Tech and what the board is supporting, as opposed to other institutions where perhaps there's not as keen. Every institution, I think, wants their students to do well, of course, but here there's a very metrics-based approach to ensuring that equitable outcomes are achieved for this community at Wake Tech.
You mentioned a word we use a lot here, which is laddering. Sometimes we'll say the phrase ladder economics, and that's but it's about providing, not just access to the first rung, but the next rung and the next rung, and how they are connected. And in some ways, that's been a little bit of the weakness in our region. I mean, we're a region that has been an unbelievable magnet. You're here. I came from the mountains as well, but I came here, pulled by the magnet of higher education. Wake Tech's not necessarily the magnet, because almost everybody that goes here is either from Wake County or one of the surrounding counties. But what we strive to do is make sure they have the opportunities to work at the IBMs. And you think about the other people on our board are from places like Biogen and Cisco and MetLife and others, and we want them to be able to ladder into these great opportunities in our region. But that's not the same for everybody, and I think that's something you've talked about in the past, because of this from personal experience. Getting from here to there can be a little more of a stretch for some than others.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that first of all, this is an area rich in universities, very, very good universities, and there's people from all over the world and the United States coming to these universities. And likewise, the talent pool that's moving here is from all over the United States. We're a very attractive place, and that's good, but it also creates a lot of competition for the people that are already here. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think it's important to have a board that's representative of a lot of the companies that have that influence around this region, such that they can also be a part of this equation in solving that challenge. It's certainly why IBM has put a lot of focus on P-Tech and apprenticeships and those kind of things, and supporting that notion that we all have to take a role, an active role in being supportive of institutions like Wake Tech to ensure that the existing populations have an opportunity. I think when we see a lot of the issues in the United States still, it's because we have this, we still have a gap, in my view, between the jobs that exist that are growing and the skill level of a lot of the populations. And it's something we're, I think, obligated to focus on and try to remediate.
Is that a gap you think is growing?
I think it's growing because I think if you look at this area, the technology skills are growing rapidly. The skills around life sciences, pharmacology, medical, and we're obviously in a very attractive region for people to move to as compared to other places they may be coming from, which have a higher cost of living. So, but it is a gap. I mean, the United States has a gap right now in labor in general, and certainly in some of these skilled areas, we definitely have a gap. So there's a lot of opportunity out there, but we have to make sure that individuals get the right skills to take advantage of it.
And this gap's been talked about for, gosh, decades now, but I guess the technology advances are stretching that gap. What do we need to do more in higher ed or education to start to close it?
Well, I think that in my mind, it does start in middle school and high school, that students need to be encouraged that they can do these things, that they can take on math and biology and reading and history and a plethora of topics that once again give them that seat at the table later on in life. I'm so disappointed when I talk to even parents who tell me their 10-year-old is not good at math and probably will not go into the technology field. Well, at 10 years old, I think it's a little bit too early to opt out.
No, right.
I think there's things that maybe we need to do, or work with the school system to be active in the schools to help ensure that your children as well as others can be successful. But I think I get the sense that people are opting out too early, and I think a lot of women are opting out of some of these fields too early, perhaps because in the case of technology, there's perhaps a view that you have to like playing video. You may need to play video games 24/7 to be effective in this field. And I can tell you, I don't play video games at all, and I never have, and I probably never will. So it's not a requirement to do, these stereotypes get in the way of individuals understanding that it could be a field that they could be successful in.
Yeah.
Because they're grasping onto these stereotypes and saying, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned middle school, which, we're a college, but I've always felt like, we have to focus in middle school about getting attention and helping students see a pathway or a ladder, as we'll use the term, because, a lot of our opportunities start in high school, the amazing dual enrollment programs that exist in high schools. And, now just announced last week, we'll have a new early college with Wake County Public Schools and information and biotechnologies, out there right now. Don't know that they are, but there may be a middle school listening to this podcast right now. If there's a young female middle schooler who says, wow, I'd like to be Jamie Thomas someday, what would you tell that younger version of yourself, right now?
I would say don't give up. I think there's a lot of resources and a lot of awareness that can help you in your endeavors. So look for those resources, go to your guidance counselor at school, latch on to your favorite public school teacher. That's what I did. I had my favorite science teachers and math teachers. I'd have to say that I thought that math was quite a difficult topic for me when I was in school. I thought physics was difficult. I thought, English was easy and fun and history was fun and everything. And I still read an amazing amount of books every year because I love literature and history and all those things. But I also invested in conquering math and these other fields. And that, of course, is what gave me the platform or the ability to go into computer science in college and do this kind of career. I always tell people that you want to have fun at your career, but you also want to give yourself opportunity to make different choices in life, right? This is a very interesting field. It's also a field with a tremendous amount of opportunity, particularly for women and diverse communities, I think, right? So it's all about don't set your goal too low, and don't set that goal in 6th grade or 7th grade or 9th grade, and don't opt out too early, because that's what will eliminate your ability to do these different things later on in life.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. One last question, because I know you got to go. You're a very busy person, but you know now Wake Tech, and you know you're a community leader. So for the people out there who don't know Wake Tech, what would you say to them about this is what is unique about Wake Tech, and this is why the community should support Wake Tech?
Well, I see Wake Tech as really the heart of the community. Wake Tech steps in and helps individuals when perhaps the other systems have failed in many ways in terms of giving them that opportunity. And I think that individuals out there that are in the community should go perhaps look into it a little bit look into that a little bit further, understand these stories that we're talking about here on this podcast. Go visit some of the amazing facilities that Wake Tech now has for building technologies or healthcare or automotive, and really understand what this organization is doing for those in our community. It's really opening up a tremendous amount of opportunity, and it's going to make Wake County the best county to be in, probably in North Carolina and many counties in the United States.
Hear, hear. Wake Tech is a strong college, I believe, and our strength comes from the support of our community. We like to say we're our community's college, and we're fortunate because we have people like Jamie Thomas and board members who contribute so much to making us who we are. And so, Jamie, I just want to thank you on behalf of everyone here at Wake Tech, the students and everyone who works at Wake Tech, for the time you give, your leadership to make us better and to help all of us achieve more. So thank you, Jamie, for your time today, and thank you for all you do for Wake Tech and for our community.
Thank you, Dr. Ralls. Thanks to you and the entire faculty and staff of Wake Tech.
LAURIE CLOWERS, and there's a lot of news to share about Wake Tech this month. Applications are currently being accepted for spring semester, which starts January 6th. If you're thinking about making a career change or could use a credential for advancement in your field, now's the time. Just go to apply.waketech.edu and plan for a fresh start next year. There's more financial assistance available than ever before. Wake Tech cut the ribbon on a brand new facility for training apprentices. The new WakeWorks Apprenticeship Center, just north of the I-440 Beltline, has 2 specialized labs. The Pool Apprenticeship Lab focuses on training apprentices in the skilled trades, and the other lab focuses on mechatronics and robotics. More than 300 Wake Tech students are currently working as apprentices at 50 local companies. It's a win-win for the students and the companies. Learn more at apprenticeship.waketech.edu. Wake Tech is ready to take its fire service training on the road. It's all thanks to a generous donation from AT&T North Carolina. The $100,000 gift will allow Wake Tech to purchase mobile training equipment to bring vital training to firefighters across North Carolina. Governor Cooper has declared North Carolina a veteran-friendly state. The governor's proclamation was presented at a special ceremony on Wake Tech's Southern Wake campus. For more on resources and training opportunities for veterans, visit veterans.waketech.edu. 400 Wake Tech students will have a delicious meal this Thanksgiving thanks to the generosity of Food Lion, Publix, and Samet Construction. Volunteers packed fixins for hundreds of meals, and students will receive gift cards for frozen turkeys. And Wake Tech basketball is back. After taking last year off because of the pandemic, the Eagles are ready to soar on the court. For schedules and results, visit waketechsports.com. And that's your Wake Tech News Update.
I'm Marilyn, Terrill, Dean, Veterans Programs, Wake Tech Community College. Today I'm here to give you a few pro tips for veterans. First one is you should visit career services. you can check on and make sure that you're on the correct academic journey. And that's important for your time. Next, you should check out veteran services. You want to look and make sure that you're utilizing your VA educational benefits if available to you, as well as financial aid, because you may be eligible for WakeTech financial aid. The next area are our academic advisors. We have 2 academic advisors that are here to help veterans, so they know some of your issues and they are here to help you. We have a federal program, Veterans Upward Bound, and Veterans Upward Bound has social connections. It helps you with first-time college students with computer and math skills workshops, as well as tutoring if needed. We also have a Student Veterans of America Club. The SVA is very active. We have monthly meetings with lunches, but they also do community service and they do things outside of the college. The latest one, they went to an equestrian farm, the veteran as well as their significant others, and they had a great time. We also have Salute, which is a National Veterans Honor Society, and if you have a GPA of 3.0 and had 12 credit hours here, you can join that. Currently, the application fee is waived for WakeTech students. And finally, if you're not sure where to go and you have a question, please reach out to Veterans Programs. Stop by one of our veteran zones or email me, and we're here to help you. All this information is on www.waketech.edu, and then search for military and veteran programs.
Thank you for listening to the We Are WakeTech podcast. Join us next month for more insightful conversations about the programs and people of WakeTech and how the college changes lives every day. Be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast app to have each episode delivered right to your computer or mobile device. For more, find us at podcast.waketech.edu. To learn more about WakeTech's exceptional educational opportunities, visit waketech.edu.